What's up, family? It's your man Mark Black. I'm gonna keep it a little lighter. I won't lie. A lot of different things have been happening, not just in the world, but in my personal life, and I've noticed that I can tend to get a little depressed, a little blue, and I want to talk a little bit about that before I get into the actual topic of this video, but I wanted to remind everybody we didn't get where we are today, like that. It didn't happen just yesterday. Some of the problems and issues that we face as a people have happened for generations upon generations upon generations. And when you first start discovering your own personal power, right? When you become conscious of what's happening around you, one of the first things you want to do is you want to go out and fix it. You want to change things. And that is admirable. Absolutely admirable. The problem with that is that you have a combination of different things that you are going to run into, right? The very first thing that you're going to run into is inertia, right? Inertia is the physical law that says that an object in motion will tend to stay in motion, and an object at rest will tend to stay at rest unless acted upon by an outside force, right? People don't like to change until they're forced to, right? Acted on by an outside force, right? So when you run across that inertia, it's very frustrating. Another thing that you run into is you may see what's happening, and another person may see what's happening, but how you see things and how they see things will differ. And since we found that there's a lot of lack of tolerance in our community, not just our community, just everybody's community, right? We don't tend to tolerate other people's ideas or understandings about things. We figure that our particular understanding is the way to get it done. And so anybody who's outside of that understanding, we tend to ostracize or belittle or push them back rather than incorporating what they bring to the table with what we bring to the table and making it greater for everybody. There's this tendency to kind of say, well, nah, you motherfuckers don't understand what's going on. You don't see the whole thing, right? So there's that piece. So inertia and a lack of acceptance for tolerance, for differences, right? And probably the most soul crushing, the most heart killing, the most draining thing that you'll experience when you start down this path is the amount of sheer ignorance that you will run into. And I don't mean ignorance in the colloquial sense like we use it all. He's ignorant, right? No, I mean actual ignorance. People who just simply do not know what the heck is going on. And we'll say there's no excuse, right? We'll say stuff like, well, you got the internet. Have you tried surfing the internet lately? There's so much bullshit on the internet. Unless you have a foundation to be able to build some degree of ability to discern what is actually happening, surfing the internet for information sometimes can be like wading through a swamp. It's a morass of detritus, of garbage. And I'll admit, it frustrates me. My heart sometimes gets broken. But we have to remind ourselves that wherever we are on the path to liberation, we invite the other people to come and then let them walk the path. If we can help them, if they need our help, offer it. Always offer it. But if they're moving at a different pace than you, or they have a different understanding than you, don't discount them. Don't belittle them. Accept where they are. Acceptance, not allowance, right? In other words, what I'm saying is accept that things are where they are. while still having that fire in the belly, that willingness to change it. Okay? Understand, people are just going to be where they are. But don't lose your heart. Don't become disheartened to the point where you get burnt out, where you get depressed, where you get sad, because then you're no good to nobody. With all the knowledge and all the consciousness that you possess, doesn't matter, right? You're burnt out. You can't do anything for anybody. So make sure to take care of yourselves. If you have babies, hug and kiss your babies, right? If you have a mate, hug and kiss your mate. Go talk to your family. Pet a damn dog. Go for a walk. Whatever it is you have to do to preserve your mental health. Seek a counselor if you need to. Somebody you trust that will be able to help you get your mind straight. Fine. Do whatever it is you have to do. Sometimes we just have to bring it up a notch. Keep it light. Right? It can't just be gloom and doom and we got to get it together right now. Yeah, I want that. I want there to be heaven on this earth right now. But I'd be fooling myself to pretend that there's going to be something that comes along and a sea change will happen amongst the people that will bring us to unity. If it does, more than likely whatever occurs will be in the short term, extremely catastrophic, painful, deadly, you name it, right? So I'm not certain I'd want that to happen anyway. While we have the time, let's invite people to our understanding of the truth while accepting their differences and unify. Okay, so enough said with that. So keeping it light, this video is going to be about food. Yes, it's going to be about the one topic I don't think there's nearly enough discussion on, except when we start talking about like how bad food is. And I think I know the reasons why that is, right? Food for us is like water for fish, right? I don't think fish swim around in water and wonder about the water. They just swim in it. It is what it is, right? And just like that, because we have to consume so much food to maintain these bodies every day, we don't even think about food for the most part. We don't think about where it comes from. What is it? How we should get it, right? What are some good ways to get it? And unfortunately for us, it's pretty imperative that we get on top of our food situation, among two other things, which I'll discuss in other videos, right? But food is absolutely paramount. Right now, under the current circumstances, we're pretty much dependent. When I say we, I'm talking about us black folk. We're pretty much dependent upon the people of the dominant society, whatever you want to call them, right? The pale people, for our daily bread, for our sustenance. If they turned off the spigots tomorrow, we'd have a problem. And so we need to start looking at things that are going to help us to get past that point of dependence upon them, and to start to create food self-sufficiency, not just for our families, but for all of us as a collective. So I wanted to offer a few tips on things to do. One of the things that I've noticed since, I would say, around like the late 90s, early 2Gs, right? Especially amongst the pale people, has been this push for, prepping, survival, right? I mean, now I know what's driving them to do it psychologically, right? They know their time is up, right? They've had their run. They see the chips falling. They know what's going down, right? So they're trying to make sure that they preserve as much as possible their own asses, right? And I get it. I get why the pale people are on that. What I don't understand, though, is why we, who traditionally have been the ultimate preppers, right, the ultimate survivalists, have let go of a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom, a lot of technology that would allow us to be able to survive horrible, catastrophic incidents that would normally have knocked white people around us out, out the box. They just be done, right? The tables are flipping, right? If you observe, they've taken foods that were traditionally ours, right? Because we've been mostly poor people, right? Cuts of meat that were primarily for poor people, vegetables that were primarily for poor people, and now they get assholes like, Gordon Ramsay and all these other celebrity chefs to take these poor people foods and turn them into rich people foods. Now foods that you used to be able to go out and buy, 50 pounds of for $5 is so expensive, you'd be lucky if you pay $5 for a pound of it, right? So one of the first areas that I want to discuss about food is that food is hard to get. Like, we've been fooled by the grocery store. Food requires work. I'm sorry, it requires work. I'm not saying you got to go out and get a job, right? What I am saying, though, is that if you are going to make food a focus, it is going to require some work, some labor, right? Some effort. Okay, so we know that food is going to require some effort. Number two thing about food, you could grow and have access to all the food in the world. And if you do not have the capability to either store it or preserve it, you're going to die. You're going to starve, right? Traditionally, there's been quite a few different methods that have been developed over thousands of years to preserve food. And I'll discuss some of those. And the third thing is that while food does require effort and it requires the means to preserve it, we could have food abundance. And I'm not talking about meeting our basic sufficient needs. I am talking about food abundance for our people. It is so easy and feasible to have it that the fact that we don't have it should be an indictment. All right, so let's go back to topic number one. Food requires effort. So if we know food requires effort, right, and currently in the system under which we live, there's a lot of foods that we have available to us at the store and things like that we don't really think about when we go to buy food. That if we had these foods, and it's usually a few staple items, right? A few staple items would be enough to keep body and soul together, right? You won't necessarily prosper, right? But you'll be able to keep body and soul together. So my first tip, I should say, that I want to offer around food is that we need to start putting an emphasis on gathering together food for families, right? You can laugh at these folk if you want to, but I have found that there is no greater resource on how to store, maintain, and add to a food store than the Mormons. Yeah, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, right? The Mormons. These people, it's actually a part of their religion that every household has to maintain at least 1 year's supply of food for every single individual in the house. They have to have 1 year of food on deck, right? No games, no jokes. They have to have it for each individual of the household at least 1 year. It's a religious requirement, all right? And so if they know that it's a religious requirement, of course they're going to do the things that it takes to develop the strategy, the techniques and the tactics to be able to make that happen. I've got a resource that I purchased from naturalmeals.com, right? This book right here is a game changer, all right? Passport to Survival. Now, this is a redo, right? A sort of a reboot of an original book that was written by a Mormon woman named Esther Dickey way back in the day, like in the 70s or something like that, right? And when she wrote it, at the time, it was revolutionary because the fact is that this book details that 4 staple items. 4 staple items. And then building around those staple items could provide you and your family enough food to last you a year without buying anything else. No joke, if need be, right? Legumes or beans, wheat or flour, salt and sugar, right? So I consider those the same thing, right? Salt and sugar, right? And I believe in the original book it was powdered milk, right? So these 4 key items would allow you to be able to create meals and build from these meals enough food for one family for 1 year. All right. I strongly recommend you pick up the book. It'll tell you how to calculate enough, calculate how much food you need for your family for a year. And believe it or not, it's not that expensive. If you were to go to, like, say, the bulk food section in most of your grocery stores now, you'll actually see bags, 25-pound bags, 50-pound bags of wheat berries, right? Wheat berries is the kernel of wheat, right? Of different types of beans, whether it's pintos or mung beans or whatever. There's multiple types of legumes, 25, 50-pound bags of lentils that are usually, even in the high-ass prices where I live, right, around 20, 21 bucks. And you buy that stuff in bulk. When you get it, take $20 out of every paycheck and go and buy in bulk, right? Get 1 bag of this, 1 bag of that, right? You can buy 5-gallon buckets with lids that will go on the buckets for storage, okay? There's little packs that you pop into your storage containers that help take out the oxygen, because it's oxygen that causes degradation of your food, right? Put it in there in the storage bin, right? The little 5-gallon containers. Pop your lid on, pop your oxygen pack in there, seal it off, pop it in your closet. Okay? I believe it's somewhere around 450 pounds of wheat, around 150 pounds of legumes, maybe a 20-pound bag of salt, another 20 to 50-pound bag of sugar, and about 20 to 50 pounds of dried milk or dehydrated milk, right, will be enough to provide you with essential calories for a year, right? You're not going to live well, but it will be enough. Stupid phone. It will be enough for you to live off of, okay? So that's number 1. We need to start building up a storehouse in our own homes, right, for hard times. We're the first ones fired and the last ones hired on jobs. We're the ones who are least likely to get loans to establish and start and sustain businesses. This, to me, is just common sense. This is a must. We have to do this. Okay. Now, the second thing that I'm going to get into is ways of being able to grow food right where you are. Whether you in the hood or whether you got 100 acres, which, by the way, I'm going to talk about in another video, because part of the reason why we are where we are is because we were getting robbed by these white folks out there in sharecropping, and they're stealing our land and stuff like that. But without a land base, there's no real hope that we can prosper. So I'm going to talk about that in a different video. But you can actually grow food in your house. I bullshit you not, right? And it doesn't require a lot of room to do it. My living room, I would say, is about 12 foot by 10 foot, something like that. If I were to take a 3 foot by 3 foot area, say over in this back corner over here, okay, right, I could put in a hydroponics setup where I can be able to grow using a rotational system. I'm giving you guys the broad outlines of this stuff. You're going to have to do some legwork, right? But using a crop rotational system, and you can use LED lighting. You can use like metal halide lights or sodium lights, high pressure sodium lights. You can get grow lights that will provide the plants with the spectrum of light they need, right? And you can build a setup like that over in my corner, and you would be able to harvest enough fresh vegetables, fresh herbs, root vegetables, all of that to be able to eat very well, right? So along with the different staple items that you're buying in step one, because you need to be continually getting those so that you're refreshing your stock, right? You use what you have stored and add back to it, right? So this way, should something happen, you've got your stock, but you're also using that stuff, so you learn how to use it. You learn how to grind wheat into flour. You learn how to prepare legumes for sprouts or for salads or for cooking or whatever. You learn how to maybe make cheese from dehydrated milk or other stuff you learn different things, different methods of how to do different things, but you have to use your stock to do that. Okay, 3 foot by 3 foot, you using intensive growing methods and hydroponics. All hydroponics is soilless growing, right? You don't even need soil to grow food. What you do is you take an inorganic porous medium, perlite, volcanic rock, peat moss, right? They've got all different sorts of things, right? But you plant your seeds in there, and then you use a solution that you flow through the bed, a solution of water with nutrients in it. Combined with the lights, grow your food, okay? If you have a backyard and you hungry, I don't know what to tell you except you deserve to be hungry. I live in an apartment, so I don't have a backyard to grow food. But if I had a backyard, even a 12 foot by 12 foot backyard, I wouldn't have a yard. I would have a garden, okay? There's a lot of us who do have homes. Start growing a garden. Pay attention to the region in which you live, right? The grow region, right? And what I mean by that is there are various regions that certain crops grow in better due to temperature differences and things like that. So you, again, more legwork. I'm giving you homework assignments, family, but you could do this, right? Start looking into intensive gardening, right? There's a system I learned about a long time ago called 1-inch gardening, where you basically maximize your amount of production by growing as much as you can within an inch of soil, right? And you can really get some really good yields by doing that. Build a chicken coop, right? Buff Orpingtons is really good type of chicken to have if you live in the city. They're fairly quiet, right? They don't get too big, but they can get some meat on their bones. They're really good layers. They have good temperaments. Buff Orpington chickens, or your Rhode Island Reds. You don't need a rooster, by the way, unless you plan on breeding chickens. You really don't need a rooster. The hens are going to lay eggs anyway. They're going to get broody and lay eggs anyway. And that reminds me of another thing. Start getting some books on animals and stuff. Look, you're going to laugh when I show you this one, but this here has been a Bible. I'm not kidding you. This talks about different tools that you use in making, different items that you would use out on a farm, right? We ran away from the land, and I get it. I know why we did it, so I'm not laying any blame. But ultimately, the solution to our problem as a people for maintaining our own subsistence day in and day out is going to be us getting back on the land. And you would be surprised, family, it doesn't take a lot to feed a whole bunch of people. It does take work, right? But we ain't afraid of hard work, most of us. I mean, sure, you got some lazy ones out there and they can get dealt with, but it's not hard. Not hard at all if you combine your efforts and your labor and you start to put together enough to make something for everybody. Okay? So, you have your food stores, right? You have your gardens or your hydroponic gardens in the house, right? Then you start adding animals to that, right? Goats are wonderful animals to have. First of all, goats, I hate to be the one to say it, but goats are tasty. I've eaten goat many times. Goat milk, much healthier for you than cow's milk, right? And you can make cheese with it. You can do all sorts of stuff with goat's milk, all right? Not only that, but goats are small. You can have, 5 goats in the same area that you would have 1 cow, right? So if you got a little bit of a backyard and you can have 2 or 3 goats, get them back there, get them raised up, if you want to eat them, you can eat them, but otherwise you could just take milk from them or what have you, right? If you got a neighbor or somebody with a billy, they can breed and you can have more baby goats, right? Goats are just a great resource. Rabbits is another one. I'm from the South. Like, my people's from the South. I've eaten rabbit a bunch of times, right? Some of y'all northerners may be like, ooh, rabbits, right? But rabbits is good eating, okay? As they would say in the South, they good eating. They very easy to take care of. You can actually keep rabbits inside, in the house, right? You can build a rabbit hutch in the house, right? With a doe and a bunch, doe is a female rabbit, right? And her babies, right? You can have a setup to where you can have meat, you can have milk, you can have vegetables and herbs, root vegetables. You can take a 55-gallon container and grow potatoes. And you don't even need anything more than the container, some dirt, and a bag of potatoes from the store, right? When you know how you keep the potatoes for too long and they start growing those little things out of them, the eyes right on the potato, that's a new potato. That's like a new potato plant. So what you do is you take a group of potatoes and you call them your seed potatoes, right? And when they start to develop these stems that grow out of them, you cut them into pieces and then you put them in the dirt and you let them grow. And as they get taller, you just fill the thing with more dirt. What happens underneath the dirt is that where the plant previously was growing the greenery, it'll start budding off and growing the roots, right? Because we eat the root of the potato, the potato itself. We eat the root, right? Once you got it all the way filled up to the top with dirt, to harvest the potatoes, all you do is you push the container over and take out all the potatoes and pop them into your root cellar. I could go on and on and on. This video will be 30 minutes, 40, 50, an hour if I continue on. But suffice it to say that there is definitely the means to address any needs that we have as a people with food. Starting from the simplest to what I guess a lot of you would say is the most difficult. Simple, start buying in bulk. Shop around the outside of the store, not through the aisles. The aisles is where they keep the bullshit. That's where they keep the junk food. That's where they keep the crap. Outside, the outer edge of the grocery store is where they keep fruits and vegetables, produce, herbs, where they keep the meats, where they keep, the dairy products and so on and so forth, right? Start buying bulk stuff and learning how to process it into the type of food you want. Sure, will it mean that cooking takes longer? Yeah, no lie about it. I used to actually be a vegan. I'm not now, but I used to be a vegan. And I made everything. I made all of my food from scratch. Okay, I made my own tofu using soybeans, right? I have made my own seitan or wheat meat, they call it, right? Using gluten flour, wheat flour, and so on and so forth, right? I made my own breads, right? I did everything all on my own. Yes, it took longer, but I knew what was in it. So I knew it was healthy. I made it from scratch. And because I was doing it by hand, I could make it in bulk and then store it for later, so that food preparation or meal preparation was super easy. So start buying bulk and stocking up. Have it at least, if you can, at least a year's supply of food for you and your family. I mean, to me, that should be like a religious thing for black people, right? We need that. Secondly, start investigating and looking at techniques that utilizes the spaces that you have to be able to grow food. It's not as difficult as you might think to have a really thriving garden sitting in your damn living room. And third, and probably the most important, but the one everybody's going to think is the hardest, we need to start building up a land base. If these Pale people want the cities back, might I, in my humble opinion, offer an idea? Let them have them. Let them have them. They want the cities back. They want to gentrify us out. Fine. Go through your community and get everybody to contribute just $5 a week. Just $5 a week. Organize a nonprofit organization, a church, anything you want. And then go out and buy up a bunch of land out in the sticks. Go as far away from these people as you can. Get out there on the land. Once you have land, there's a lot of stuff you can do to make money, right? You can grow and sell your own stuff, right? If you want to deal with the FDA, you can, right? You can pay to have cell phone towers put up out there. Or you can put up solar panels, wind turbines, generate power out on your land that you can sell back into the grid and make money. Once you have a land-based family, you can do so much. And everybody can have a home. And everybody can have food to eat and a place to be safe. And when you develop these rural communities, you can then put your people in as sheriff. You can put your people in as judges. We got to play the long game. Look, we ran from the land because they were trying to run us off it. Why do you think they were trying to run us off the land? Because the Pale people know how important it is to have a land base. They know. That's why they give all these farm subsidies to companies like Monsanto and Cargill and all this and that, because they know as long as they have a stranglehold on the land, they got a stranglehold on our asses. We need to get out of our feelings about having farms and being a farmer. Being a farmer is a damn respectable way of living. It is respectable. Probably one of the most respectable ways of living we have left. Let's go. Get your money up. Start off with 10 acres. That's it. You could put 5 families on 10 acres, and 2 acres would be enough to feed that entire family if you know what you're doing. Right? And then as each community gets 10 acres, y'all start trading stuff back and forth. Let's say this community does beets and y'all got a bunch of goats. You can trade beets for goats. You don't even have to spend no money. And everybody live well. So I'm happy to share this with you. There's going to be more around actual, real, practical things that we as black people can do to help get us out of this messed up ass system, this sick situation that we find ourselves in. And some of it is going to ask us to move back, to move forward. At one time, black people were agriculture in this country. Do you understand me? They talk about white farmers. We were agriculture. We have farmed everything. We brought crops here. Okra, the peanut, and so on and so forth. Different types of legumes. They came from us. Rice. It came from us. We were agriculture in this country. I look forward to a day where if we stopped farming, people would panic. You feel me? That's power. So until next time, Love, peace, prosperity, and power to my people.